Next thing I want to talk about, the Pittsburgh Steelers schedule was released. We dove through it. Me and Nick came up with our predictions. Everybody got mad at us because we had them. I had them losing 3 straight. I had them going lost to Baltimore, lost to Cleveland, lost to Cincy. I think I lost some people there on the way, and I apologize. You got to look at the big thing.
If you guys weren't such huge haters, you wouldn't lose so many fans. But I just think you need to look inward.
Look at, I tried. I 10-7. I felt good about it. Okay, the first time I went through that schedule, I looked at it and I went, "Nah, this is a losing record. They're not going to get a losing record. No, go back, do it again." So I came up with 10-7. I felt good about 10-7. It's not my fault that the NFL did this to them. It's not. It's truly not. You look at their schedule. A lot of big games, a lot of somewhat easy games, a lot of important dates, primetime games, so on and so forth. All 16 of them, I guess. No, 17. We're a 17-game season now. What is the most important one? What is the Pittsburgh Steelers cannot lose this game? If they do, they're in a lot of trouble. What is that game?
Yeah, there are a lot of different options here. I think you could say that season opener against the Falcons, like setting the tone. I think you could say week 2 against the Broncos, because that could tell you a lot too about this team's ability to go on the road, play in a big environment, and shut out distractions. Mm-hmm. I think that Eagles game also late in the season, right before, right in the middle of that really tough stretch on the second half. I'm going to go something pretty different. It's in the first half of the year, October 20th in week 7 against the Jets. It'll be a primetime game, a Sunday night football game. I think and the reason I say this Jets game is because it is in, relatively speaking, the easier part of the year, the easier part of their schedule. But I think it is kind of a prove-it game. I think the Jets are going to be pretty good this year, but not on the same level as, the Chiefs or even the Ravens. I think this is a team that's very much on Pittsburgh's level. But, you look at what people are talking about around the league. You look at, win totals and Super Bowl odds and stuff like that. The dominant narrative is that the Jets are going to be much better than the Steelers this year. And I'm not sure if I buy that. And I don't think the Steelers should buy that either. I think this is an opportunity to really announce themselves, to really prove to the rest of the league that they are serious, that they can be contenders. And then after that, you get the Giants, and then you're going into a bye, and then you face the Commanders before the really tough start, the really tough stuff gets going. So I think that Jets game is really going to tell us a lot. I think if the Steelers lose that one, I'm not very confident about their ability to survive that second half. I think you beat the Jets, you can really set the tone really well. You can make a statement to the rest of the league on national television, and then you can roll into that bye week, hopefully with some easy games to really pick up some momentum going into the second half.
Okay, so you're not going to like this. Fans are going to like this a lot less. I actually had the Steelers losing to the Jets in week whatever on Sunday Night Football.
Look, I don't think that's impossible. The Jets are good, and I think they got a little bit better this offseason. Obviously, you got to hope Aaron Rodgers' body in general, his health can hold up until then. But man, I gotta see it happen. I
agree.
I don't think the Jets were. Some people might think the Jets were a quarterback away last year. I think they had a lot of problems that, I don't know, you could just kind of easily point to Zach Wilson and say, that's the. And this is kind of the whole thing about, talking about how difficult this schedule is this is harder than the schedule the Steelers got last year, but the Steelers are significantly better on paper than they were last year.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's what I think's getting lost in all this, is that this is just a far superior roster and team to what they got last year. They are built to handle schedules like this, to be quite honest with you. Whether or not they will remains to be seen, obviously, but this isn't impossible. This team isn't screwed by any means. They have, I think they could just as easily win 13 games as they could, win 9 games or something like that. I think we're underrating how much better the Steelers got this year. And I know that the Jets got better. I know there are some really good teams on the schedule, but I don't want to count out the Steelers yet. And I don't want to underrate what they've done this offseason, because that's all we've talked about all offseason is how much better they got.
I agree. And I've said that with every loss. With every loss that I've named for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I've said they could pull this off. And I don't think this is a blowout. I don't think blowouts are possible for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. I just don't look at them as a bad team at all. And maybe they turn out to be a bad team. Who knows? But it doesn't look like they're going to be. Looks like they're going to be a much better team than they were a year ago. It's not It has nothing to do with who the Pittsburgh Steelers are. It has everything to do with the fact that like beating the Chiefs is very difficult. Beating the Eagles is very difficult. You know, beating the Cincinnati Bengals twice with the healthy Joe Burrow is difficult. Like that's the part. It's not the and since he's saying the same thing, if you're talking about the Cincinnati Bengals, they're talking beating the Pittsburgh Steelers twice is difficult. You know, beating the Chiefs is difficult. That's just the perspective and the reality of the NFL. I agree with you. I think that's a big one. Mine is week 3, home opener, Los Angeles Chargers. This is my thought behind this one. You have to win the games that you could win for the Pittsburgh Steelers this year. You can't give yourself that, oh, we have to beat the Chiefs in week 17 miracle. That just cannot be a thing. And with this schedule, that could happen. You know, the AFC is so close right now that it's not impossible to say going 10-7 isn't going to be good enough. You know, so you have to win the games that you could win. And I think the Chargers are going to be looked at as a team that are much better than they were, that Jim Harbaugh's here and he's going to save Justin Herbert. And, you know, here it is. This is a new run for the Los Angeles Chargers. They're immediately contenders. Maybe they are. Maybe they're a lot better than they were a year ago. That's a game the Pittsburgh Steelers should win. It is not on the same category as the Ravens, the Browns, the Bengals, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. It's just not. And if you win that game and you maybe start 3-0, that's one of them that you're going to look back on at the end of the season and say, okay, look, good thing they won that game. Because if it's the other way around, you're going to look back at it at the end of the season and say, well, if the Steelers beat the Chargers, they'd be in a much better situation. That's how I view that.
Yeah, I mean, like, think even back to last year, like the whole, like, man, if they didn't lose to the Patriots, man, if they didn't lose to the Cardinals, like, especially those first 3 weeks, I'd apply the same sentiment to that Falcons game, that Broncos game.
Yes, 100%.
Just take care of business, man, and you can be going into that Cowboys game at home, another Sunday night or a primetime game on a national stage, with a ton of momentum and ready to, like, really announce yourself in front of a national TV audience against a team with that kind of brand power, a team as strong as the Cowboys. You can do yourself a lot of good by not slipping up before then and not putting more pressure on that game, on those big games than you need to. I completely agree.
Yes, I just that's like the sentiment for the whole first half of the schedule. Win the games you should, and it's just survive. You know, people have tossed out there like the Steelers could go 8-0 before the bye week. They could. Like, they actually could. It's not. I'm not going to put my money on it. I'm not going to say that I'm guessing that's going to happen. I wouldn't even say that I'm confident. I wouldn't even say it's likely or somewhat likely. I wouldn't say there's a 50% chance, but I would say that it could happen. Like, you know, that's the easiest half of the schedule. It could happen.
They could also be 4-4 by the bye week, you know?
Exactly. The Chargers and the Jets could be the greatest thing to ever touch the turf with Aaron Rodgers and Jim Harbaugh. You just don't know. But I agree with you. And I think that the first half, that's the motto to live by, is win the games that you could win. And if they do that, I think they take care of business. But just like the Cam Hayward thing, just like everything else we've talked about today, you got to wait and see. It's May, and, you know, you just don't know what's going to happen.